Hello everyone, welcome to the Kevin Lee Social. Thank you for tuning in. What initially began as an 8-part series interviewing entrepreneurs to share and inspire how they've successfully pivoted during COVID-19, I have decided not only to continue this series, but also to expand on the scope to understand and learn about people's craft, philosophy, the challenges they face in the industry, and their favorite failures that have helped shape them to become who they are today. By going deeper and understanding different thought leaders, businesses, and industries, the idea is to help cross-pollinate ideas applicable in your life and inspire action in this new norm we live in. I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you. Today, we have Motomichi Nakamura. He is an animator, projection artist, and lecturer based in Brooklyn, New York. He was born and raised in Japan. He attended Parsons School of Design in New York City, where he had studied communication design and illustration. He works with various media, including painting, sculpture, animation, projection mapping, and his work has been exhibited globally in numerous museums and galleries, including the New Museum of Contemporary Art in New York, Winzavod in Moscow Contemporary Art Center, Marco in Monterrey, Mexico, Taubman Museum of Art in Virginia, among others. His films have been screened in Sundance Film Festival, Onedotzero Festival, and Edinburgh International Film Festival. Commercially, he has worked on projects for clients such as EA, MTV, USA Networks, and Sony, and produced a music video for the Swedish band The Knife. Everyone, please help me welcome Mr. Motomichi Nakamura. Hi Motomichi, thank you for taking the call all the way in New York. How are you today?
Good. It's getting cold here.
Getting cold. What kind of temperatures are hitting over there at the moment?
It's almost around like 1 to 0, like around that. It's about to snow.
Wow. Okay, it's about to snow.
On your side, yeah.
we're the opposite over here in Sydney, Australia. It's getting warm here in Sydney.
Yeah.
A crazy heat wave of about 40 degrees recently.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you taking this call. I know.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it's a great honor to take this. And I wanted to start with asking what cryptozoology is about. I came across in my research and I wanted to start with that topic.
So basically it's a study about legendary creatures, mythical monsters, and then basically their main goal is to prove their existence. So that's like the main part of it. And then it talks about basically witness account, the story about how they encounter the monsters. And then there are a lot of cases, and then most of the time physical evidence is missing. So a lot of people don't take it seriously because it's not scientific enough. But the way I see it is that the cryptozoology is particularly interesting to me because a lot of comments, a lot of witness accounts can be taken a little bit subjective. So it has a lot of input of the witness. So that's basically it's about monsters and people talking about it and trying to prove that they actually saw it, even though they don't believe it. So that's that.
It's a very interesting topic. In your personal experience, have you come across a case that you think that you have seen one?
No, unfortunately, I fantasize about it. Like now I read by the river, and I just every day I look at the river, and then maybe I can see something like monster. No, I haven't.
Maybe one day. Who knows?
I know.
From my research, you were born and raised in Japan and then moved to New York City for Parsons School of Design. And from there, you traveled to Ecuador for 7 years before moving back to New York City. How do you think it has influenced or shaped your practice?
The first time I came to the States I was 16. I was an exchange student program in high school. And after that, I went back to Japan and I came back. And I met my wife at Parsons when I went to university. And she happened to be from Ecuador. So that's why I ended up going to Ecuador. I think it's to me that the first time I came to the US was like shocking. I think it's part of it just because maybe now it's not so much, but Japan is such, how do you say that? So like they live in a bubble in the sense that we have such a little contact to outside of the country. Not even, when I grew up, I didn't have a single foreigner friends. Imagine, like I didn't have a single Korean friend, Chinese friend, like all 100% Japanese. And then the only thing we knew about Western culture was like Michael Jackson, Madonna, that level.
Yeah.
So coming to the US was like really shocking. And then I really started thinking about cultural difference, language. And then after living here for, I guess, 10 years or so, I moved to Ecuador. And that also opened up my horizon in a way, because I thought I've seen a lot. And then going to South America was so like created like different, made a triangle in a sense that I thought that Japan is here and US or New York is here. And I suggest everything in between this spectrum. But then having South America sort of like that whole new, dimension to it. Like a lot of things that the way that things work in Ecuador or South America is, I would say, opposite end of how people do in Japan. So that sort of thing, like really, I basically really question about my common sense, my background. And then I was doing that when I moved to the States, but going to South America, like really opened up my mind. So that really made me think in a way that how can we communicate? It's just we come from such a different background that there must be something that we can all communicate. So that's like my thing in a way that I always think about that. What is the best way to communicate with people regardless of their background?
Yeah. I'm sure with the difference in culture from between Japan and Ecuador, there are a lot of things that the way people express themselves that you wouldn't do so traditionally in Japan or vice versa.
I can go on and on about it.
Traveling really does open up the mind in terms of where you take any perspective. And I've traveled to Japan before in my personal travels, and all my friends that travel to Japan, they're in a major culture shock when we come from Australia. I was born and grew up in Australia, and then when I went to Japan, I was like, everything is so interesting, everything is so cool, and everyone's like, you gotta go to Japan. And
Okay.
very, very fascinating when we go over there. Very different world altogether. But I can understand when you mentioned that it's a very high population of Japanese people only that live there. And with your heritage and upbringing influence, how does that influence your outlook on your work, being Japanese?
I think it's definitely the cultural. In the beginning, when I started living in the US, I wasn't conscious about it in a way. I guess that's a typical thing for foreigners, that when you move to a different place, that you focus on getting used to it, getting adapted to it. But then after you go through a certain period of time and then you filter things out, and then you really started thinking about your background. And then there's certain things that no matter how much you adapt to the new environment, and whether you like it or not, that your cultural background is also part of your personality. And then I think that way that I really tried to find, like in the beginning when I started working as an artist, I was like never conscious about my background in a way. The people always, mention me as Japanese artist, Japanese, they'll talk, they ask me a lot about Japanese culture. And then that sort of like started asking me questions that, what is it? And then I think it's just one thing that always stays with me is the sort of like perspective, like how we see simplicity. That's I think is like, to me, my Japanese background. So it's like a Zen philosophy in a way, like less is more.
Yeah.
So that stays with me. So I think that has a big part of my work.
Understand. Yeah. And simplicity is going around a lot lately, with less is more, and with the Marie Kondo concept going around.
He's God.
It is a really big thing that's going on, but it's highly adopted, which is great. I do like that concept that less is more.
So she's also quite popular in Australia?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, she's very famous. I think especially after COVID has hit and everything, I think less is more is a really big thing. With projection mapping, from what I understand, because I've been recently introduced to more of it, I've been obsessed and I've dived and trying to learn more about it, which is why I really wanted to connect with you. I understand that it's a very hands-on type of craft, whether you're modeling, dealing with materials, textures, or even meeting with clients. To tie in with what we were talking about, with what's happening at the moment being COVID-19, still the pandemic is still happening around the world. How are you managing your projects or maneuvering around this challenge at the moment?
I think I can probably speak for the people who are in similar industry. Basically, if you do any type of experience work, I mean, that even includes music concerts and movie theaters and any kind of performance and the galleries. And I think it's heavily has huge impact on us. Yeah, it's definitely difficult, I think. It has limited our activities a lot. So to be honest, I think about it every day, but I haven't really found any solution to it. So one thing I learned is just to be patient, because this thing we just have to wait. And the other thing is that I was doing a lot of the indoor projection mapping. That is just difficult. Ever since this happened, I started doing more outdoor projection mapping, and this actually works well. Just you project anything, like it can be a building, like mainstream projection mapping. I think people think about huge buildings and amazing effect and that. And then from there, projection mapping started branching out to a lot of different things. But now, since we have just so much limitation in indoor, the outdoor projection mapping has a lot more. I guess it's a lot safer, obviously. So I think that I see that opportunities in that part of this projection mapping field.
I think that's a great idea, how you've pivoted and rethought about projection mapping from indoor to outdoor. And it's true, when we think outdoor projection mapping, we think these massive budgets and big projects, which is nearly impossible unless you have a massive funding.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the MTN residency video, and you were just driving around and you're looking at a concrete pole, and you're like, wait, you have a connection with this piece. You like this piece of pole.
Mm-hmm.
You just see you set up and then just project onto the pole. And I think that's such a great idea. I think a lot more people should get onto that rather than just think about the confines of the box, which is in the inside, in the interior of their own pieces all the time. Definitely can draw inspiration from that. And is there certain things that you look for when you go out? How is your thought process when you go through selecting a piece to project on, for example?
It's talking about the virtual residency that I did. Is the idea was that the original idea was that I was going to find the wall or the building, and then not standard, but like very common process, which is you take pictures, you measure it, and then you process animation, and then you match it exactly. So that's what I had on my mind. And then I was driving around, and then we recently moved to a suburb of New York. So it's about like an hour, Brooklyn. So I was living in Brooklyn until July. And then I had the idea. So in the city, there's always walls and the buildings and so many textures. And then there's not much going on here. Trees and then. So I think, what should I do? I just couldn't find any buildings. I cannot do projection onto Joanne Reed or CBS, you know what I mean? Like the drugstore. And then I said, no, it's like, and then I was just driving around and I said, wait, I see this objects, and then what really appreciates now, it's just because of the pandemic stuff. I was just so happy to be outside and driving around, walking around. And then just there's so much space here comparison to Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens. And then I was like, wait, why don't I just take that object and then because I just like the way it looked, like in other elements too. I like the way with just like geese flying and sunset and stuff like that. So it's wait, maybe I can just create that picture there instead of focusing on the only object, like the whole scenery. So I just got the idea, and then from there, so I didn't have particularly any set the format to come up with the idea in a way. So that's how I got to that point of doing that. So I think I don't know, next project I work on, I don't know, I might just come up with something else.
Talking about how you tried to take in the whole scene, the projection piece that you did looks like it was on a lake. And I think it almost looked like it was on barrels. And then when it came into the evening and you lit up all the barrels, it looks like from a distance.
Oh, like a rock?
Yeah, on the rocks. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And that whole scene, as it changed from day to night, it forced you not to just look at the rocks. As, for example, a standard projection piece, you look at what you projected on, for example. Whereas that whole scene, the way it was filmed and the way it was shot, you could see the whole lake area, the whole the that surrounds it, and it gave it a different dimension, I feel, to the whole experience.
Yeah, when you do the outdoor projection, and then I've done quite a number of projection mapping outdoor in the buildings, and then when that happens, normally just your focus is completely on that building, and you just literally just crop it out, and all you want to see is the building. But when you start projecting onto when your focus kind of switches to the whole like scenery, and then you have to take everything into consideration. And then that piece is basically I wanted to get the nice sky when the sun goes down. And then to do that, basically I have to check the time when sun goes down. And then other thing about the projection mapping is that you cannot really map it unless that it's dark enough. But at the same time, when it goes completely dark, it becomes, I don't know if you've seen the amazing projection mapping piece on the buildings, right? Like colonial buildings, beautiful. But it's just so perfect. Like the sky is so like completely dark, perfect, that it looks like done in 3D. Perfect. So I didn't want that. And then, so for that, I wanted to actually capture the moment where you can still see the sky, you can see the environment and project it. That we're talking about like literally 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So when sun goes like 20, you have 20 minutes to shoot, and then you have 20 minutes to set up.
Yep.
I was thinking, I went by there, and before that, and I was just thinking, how can I do this? I just planned it, I measured it, and then, okay. And then I checked where I can put the projector.
Mm-hmm.
And then that day I just went back and just sit straight, and just work straight. And then there's sometimes people come by and ask questions.
Yeah.
And then I feel bad. I'm busy. That's just, just such a, they want to think, that guy's just so unfriendly. So I say, oh yeah, but I have to tell them really clear, like, sorry, I'm actually busy. And it's just go straight like this. Yeah. And then done and just set it up, and it's, yeah. So that's intense that way, because if you just want to just capture it, and then if you want to run it all night, you have like good 1 hour or more to set it up. But then if you just want to capture the moment, that is not like rush. So I basically plan in a sense, where can I park? Am I allowed to park here? And in some extreme case scenario, sometimes when I was doing the shooting in Brooklyn, police patrols, there's the area where the police just goes around and around. You don't want trouble. So I always think that if they ask questions, how can I respond? How quickly can I pack up? And stuff like that. So in this case, it's more laid back here, but still, if they ask me to move the car, how can I do it? So it's just all the planned stuff, and then just do straight. So just go work and just get on like this. Yeah.
I can imagine you've been planning, you've been thinking about all this, and you've got that 20-minute window to quickly 20-minute sunset.
Yeah.
And then people rock up curiously asking you, oh, so what are you up to? Excuse me. I only have this window. I really need to focus right now and get this done.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious. I want to get into a bit more detail now in terms of, since we've been speaking about it, you were talking about you have to be thinking about how mobile you can be, how quickly you can set up and go if all these things happen. What is your setup? What kind of projector do you use? Or what do you bring with you generally? So
when you do outdoor projection, obviously that if you have the electricity somewhere, and then pretty much you can do anything as long as you find a way to protect your equipment in case of rain. But if you actually want to go complete mobile, that's where basically the electricity is basically what limits you. So there are different ways to do. And then I think for this, So I have two different settings for this. One is the like tiny projector that I use like this, and it does comes with a battery. So for that business I didn't do, but the pieces I did in Subway was that like basically just only this with the tripod. And then, but the other is like you can use, but when you want to project a little bit wider, you use the consumer level projector. It's fine, like 4,000 lumen, 3,000 lumen. They typically advertise it as home entertainment. So something that people, the gamers, people who are into watching sports and stuff, that kind of projector. And then the battery is that I use portable, basically like huge battery. And then when you really want to go bigger, you get generator, one with the gasoline, but that creates a lot of noise. And also that's just too much hassle, and also you don't want to get that much attention. So I bought this sort of like battery that like around this size, and you can carry it. So that's pretty much that battery connects to the projector and the tripod, and then little table for the laptop. But like sometimes when I really don't have space, or when I really can't afford to get too much attention, and I use the mobile phone, like iPhone, to send the video signal to the projector.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes I have it in the pocket, or I actually duct tape it, in the top of the projector or something like that, and then just hide it. So it just runs and runs. Well, once you map it.
Yeah. Once you set it up, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm also curious about the software you use for both projection mapping and animation.
So animation, I use like standard like animation program like After Effects, Photoshop, Animate, stuff like that. And the projection mapping part, I use the software called Map Mapper. Mm-hmm. It's very, very easy to use. But also I like the program because you can map it so fast. And it's reliable. Once you run it, it just runs and runs.
Yeah.
When I do, like sometimes I do permanent installation where like I do the mapping in set up museum. I just set up the computer and then set the computer to auto start when the computer starts, and then the program starts at the same time. And it just runs like, I did it. The longest one I did was maybe 7 months, and I only had one issue. One time it just crashed. And then other than that, it runs and runs.
Oh, okay. Did you ever have experience of using the Minimad module thing?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes, I am actually learning and practicing on a MAD mapper at the moment.
Okay. Since you mentioned, okay, wow, well, you do know that. So yes, Minimad is the product that offered by GarageCube, which is the company which produces MapMapper. So what it is that? So if you use MapMapper and you have to leave the computer, so typically what you will do is to buy what do you call that? Minimap, the square one, or a laptop. But there are cases where you don't want to do that, because if you do that, you have to have a keyboard, and then you have to create the extra, what do you call that, shelf to install. But of course, there's certain cases you do have to use it, is because there are a lot of details that the MapMapper offer. And then when you switch to Minimap is basically like mini computer, like Raspberry Pi, right? Like mini PC. So that's like a CD, like a DVD. Like you burn it pretty much, and then it runs and runs. And then, talking about the stability, this one is stable.
Yeah. Okay.
Once you set it up, like you can just, take your plane back home, and then you don't have to worry about it.
That's really good to hear from someone who has experience, because part of the reason why I have gotten into the whole projection mapping world quite a bit is part of my business portfolio is restaurants.
Oh, okay.
And the restaurant concept is an experiential type of restaurant.
Yeah.
And, we're opening up our second restaurant in March next year. We start the build in January, and then next year they were hoping to open a few more as well, more than 2. But part of the idea is I wanted to incorporate the experience of projection mapping within the restaurant in a way, in a creative form. And I'm going to need to have it on loop for quite a while. As a restaurant, it's open all day, every day for as long as it needs to be. So it's good
Yeah,
to.
I think it's perfect. And then the only thing is that it doesn't have the once you burn it, once you publish it, you can't touch it. So you cannot update the content. So that's a little bit of the difficult part. But then again, the whoever that creates it, as long as they have he or she has the what do you call the same mapped file, and then you can update and send just the SD card. So you can you should be able to update that stuff like. But it's very stable. So that I was surprised that I used it, and I used it for actually I did some projection for a children clothing store in Brooklyn, and I set it up once, and I never had to go back and fix anything. It just ran. So I was quite impressed.
Great. I'm very happy to hear that. And I wanted to ask, when I'm looking at your artwork, and I'm always thinking, what is your goal with the art that you're creating? What do you want people to take away from it?
I think I want people to connect to my work. I think this goes for the artists too. Like I want people to feel something. But in my case, particularly my focus is being about fear. I want people to not feel scared or anything, but if my work can be in a way that a chance for them to think about what is fear, that's like my goal. Like I want people to think about or face the fear, in a sense that because a lot of times that like people say the worst thing is to fear the fear, right? That's sort of like my main subject or the concern, or I think it's people become very vulnerable and weak when we fear something, and then people manipulate you. People do a lot of things that people lose sight of things when they fear something. So I think it's just sometimes that I feel like it can be as simple as just facing the fear, and it's not as bad as you think. And we all have it. It's just a part of the reality. You know what I mean? There's happiness, there's sadness, right? When you love someone, when you love something, it's like a shadow that the other side is like you could lose it, so you fear of losing it. So I think it's just like a way of seeing the reality in a way. So like I just hope that like my work can make people think in certain way, and they think about the fear, so that we all feel more, I don't know, like relieved or like free.
I understand. That's a very interesting way to look at it. I've never really thought about it in that way, but I had read a passage recently by a gentleman called Seth Godin, and it was about how art creates change. And if there's no change, there's no art. And part of change is creating tension. And when you mention fear, it's like a form of tension. And I thought of you when I read that passage in terms of how possibly you've thought of using fear as a emotion or the subject to create change. Like you said, when you experience that fear, that you hopefully will experience that emotion and then freedom afterwards. If you had any thoughts or opinion on that statement or in your work in general.
So I think the way I see art is about passion. I think is I could describe it from the point of creator's view or the viewer's view, but the way I think it's when you create. I guess I can say from my own experience. So if I create artwork with my passion, and then somewhat the people understand it or share it. If it's something so very specific, like let's say if I feel passionate about Mothman, and then of course most likely people don't care. But the thing is, if I create so much with passion, and even though the people who don't give a damn about Mothman, but then if I present a work which I created with so much with passion with Mothman, and then people find it interesting, and then people like want to share the passion, like regardless of what it is. So I think it's from there to make it art is, I think is of course, it's from there we have to put a lot of efforts and training into it to create some like crafts and techniques. But I think what's really important thing about is passion. So I wouldn't necessarily say that tension is necessary or that it needs to create the tension. I don't see art in a way that is not so confrontational in a way. Art can be just super happy piece, like so happy. But I think it's just something like about it that it has to be genuine, something authentic, something real. And then I think that is what I really care most when I create artwork. And then I think for that, and then when someone puts so much passion into it, it is definitely that you put some level of intensity to it, and that creates the tension for that. And also going back to my personal theme as art, is to me, like I put a lot of tension or like fear or the intensity in my work. It's sort of I want people to just really feel it, and from there, maybe I can give them different perspective to it. Something like I think is also going back to the like universal language. Like we all, regardless of where you come from, when we fear, when we love something, when we feel happy, there's no boundaries on that. I think if we can reach that level and we can communicate, sometimes it doesn't really matter in the sense that what it is. I think it's sometimes we just need to feel that we share something. I think that's really important. And then we have a lot of issues we have in the communication level. It has a lot to do with not finding the common ground. So I think if you can find a way, of course you could argue. So hey, Moro, why didn't you do happy thing? Yeah. So I get happy not to be my thing, but regardless of what it is, like you can talk about light or shadow. So I guess in that case, I ended up taking more of this, what you call like a darker side in a way, but I don't really find it as dark as it is. I think it's a positive thing to share. So I think that's why that it does also create the tension to sometimes people don't want to see what's there, don't want to accept. Say truth hurts, right? Yeah. People get really angry when you are told the truth in your face. When you are told something completely off the reality, people can ignore. When something's true, it hurts.
Yep, I understand. Very beautifully said. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's very, I'm taking notes in my head already. And I wanted to ask, why red, white, and black palettes?
Oh yeah, so it's basically that I was in search for universal language, and also coming from the less is more sort of like a background. So when I was in college, I was always limiting colors. So I was never really that into shades or thing. I was really into the elements and then flat colors, opaque colors. And then I started limiting a lot of colors. And then I was thinking like, if there's any way that I could communicate with people without having them know something about something. Like let's say, like in some culture, let's say green. People talk about green as the leaves and trees. Some people might think that green is the green light, safe. But I wanted to find a way in some way that something goes like, sort of like overrides that. And then I was thinking like, if there's any way that, so I was just trying to simplify, and then the limiting colors, limiting shapes, and then so I took out the outlines too. So my work actually doesn't have an outline either, because that's sort of like my way of showing the reality. Like when you look at the object, none of the objects has outline. There's a mass, and that's it, and there's a background. That's how we distinguish that. And then, so I thought of black and white, but then black and white has this black and white photography and classic and nostalgic, and I wasn't that settled with that. But then I started reading about color theory and psychology, and then each color adds some kind of a physical impact to it. So I was like, oh, that's great. And then so the black is the darkest in color, and then and the white is the brightest. So for example, if you carry the box painted in black, and you say, let's say this is 1.5 kilogram.
Yep.
Same box painted white, you say 1 kilogram. You can call it illusion, but it is a fact. And that's what the brain tells you. So I was, oh, that's great, because that will be the same for anyone. So that's the same way. And then also the black and white creates the highest contrast.
Yep.
So when you put it together, basically that's the highest contrast. Basically, it's not a comfortable thing to see. At the same time, it's comfortable because it's, like you said, black and white. And then there was also I don't know if you heard the thing called Pokemon Shock. Have you heard?
Pokemon
Shock. You can Google it. There was, I think, back in 90s. So Pokemon show used to be on TV. And then there was an episode where the Pokemon, I guess, I never really watched the full episode. So Pokemon obviously does this flashing thing.
Yeah.
Because of the strobe effect.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know how many, maybe 1,000 or 10,000 people in Japan who were watching started vomiting. I'm sorry, but started vomiting and then seizure because of the strobe effect.
Yes.
I was like, when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, that's almost like the movie from the 80s or 90s, the Poltergeist, where the monster comes out from the TV. Or like The Ring, the horror movie, The Ring.
Yeah.
Okay, so to me, that's almost like, I was like, that's amazing because it's just TV. It's just supposed to be just a passive way of communication. Just put it out and then watch. And then, but just doing that, basically, you're almost like physically affecting the viewers. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. And so I was like, oh, that's why I used a lot of the black and white right next to each other. And I also play with the amount of it. Like when you put the more white and then the less black, you feel lighter in a way. But when you put more black and less white on the screen, you feel compressed.
Yeah.
Because black is heavy and white is light. And especially if you put the black over white, you feel the weight. When you put the black under and the white, basically you're looking at the nice horizon with the sky. But if you put the black on top and the white, that's basically you're at the bottom of the sea. You see what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is, to me, I like that sort of the communication without word. So I just thought, and the red is when you see the red color, your eye has to basically squeeze harder to get your basically lens thicker to actually to focus it. So that's just how the red is. So if you put the red object in, let's say, 1 meter from you, and the black object 1 meter from there, of course, if you just put it right in front, but you can actually put it on the screen too. You think, without even questioning, that red is so much closer to you than black. That's just what the brain tells you. There's no other way around. So I like that sort of. So the way that the color communicates with you. So like in my work, sometimes I use the red background and then a black object or the characters moving. So when you look at it, basically your conscious tells you that, okay, so there's this red ground and then the black element is coming towards you, right? Or like walking. So you know that it's a landscape and then there's a black tree. But the thing is, your brain, your eye is sending the signal to your brain. You know, red is actually closer, which makes no sense. Because why is it that the black comes close to you and then something standing in front of you actually farther? So that sort of like completely creates the kind of uncomfortable feeling. Of course, it's not as good as Pokemon Shock, but so that feeling is just, so I want people to take away, feel something. So, wait, I just saw something that just feels strange. But that sort of thing is just, I feel like I'm just finding a way to reach out to them in a way.
Yeah.
So I settle with these 3 colors in a way. And then it also becomes like a rule for me. So when you solve the mathematical problem, so you come up with the equation and you apply that over and over. So just these 3 colors became like a thing for me, that the language for me, that I apply that to work that I create. So I was like, okay, so I have 3 colors. How can I solve it with these 3 colors? So that's like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's like giving yourself a constraint so you can work with. And I was listening to a podcast with the CEO of Spotify, and he was saying that he's worked with he comes in contact and he works with all these amazing artists around the world. And he said the top artists he's come across, we have this idea that artists have this free flow, that you do whatever you want, you can, like, there is free flow and everything like that. But he says the top artists that he comes across around the world, they give themselves a constraint to work in, and then they build from there, because that constraint gives them that ability to then be creative in what they're trying to build, which is what I'm hearing from your side as well. Okay, you've given so much thought, and I love that you've given so much thought into the psychology, how you mentioned like a universal language, and you've given yourself that kind of, okay, I'm going to work with these three colors. And I love how the meaning and the conscious belief behind it. It's very interesting, and I can see why it works so well. And I always love hearing this behind the artwork, because it gives you that, because then when you revisit the person's artwork, like your artwork, when I go revisit it now, it gives me a different lens, but it also gives me a bit more depth of knowledge. Like, for example, you said when you watch something, it gives you that kind of, I feel something, but I'm not sure what it is. It's a bit weird, but then now I can understand. So, now I know why. So
talking to the person, you understand,
because as a viewer, you don't always know like the reason behind everything. You just experience it as interesting, but I feel it's a bit, something is happening, but I'm not sure what is happening. And clearly anyone that comes across your page can see your work has been shortlisted and taken many awards. So it hasn't always been this way. Do you have a favorite failure that has set you up for later success?
I don't know, same for success, but one thing I learned, there's this one incident that I kind of, it's not really that much of a big deal, but I still remember a sort of bitter thing. Is that I had this exhibition opportunity almost like over 10 years ago. And then, so that was like, at that time, that was just a big deal for me. And then that was a video installation work. And then I think it's in some way that I didn't know enough about lighting condition. So I did a projection, but then the organizer there suggested that I should put some lights. It was such a silly thing, and then so he said, and then I think I got stubborn, maybe in some way I was maybe insecure in a way. I got stubborn. So after he puts the light, and then what I had on my mind is like, I had to get the way that I think is right, or what I requested. So I went and turned off all the lights.
Yeah.
After, and they turned off the one by one the light. So the projection itself looked brighter. But the thing is that as a whole experience, after that, I saw the recording, I was just like thinking that, God damn it, it's just because you cannot really see anything because it was too dark. Projection was great. And then I think that's what he was trying to tell me. But and then just ever since that, I was just like, I should have just listened. I should have known that what I don't know. And then just bitter experience for me. Recently I just did the installation work in Stockholm. So it's actually opening today. So that's the projection map installation, but indoor. But they have the window facing outside, so they can see from outside. So of course I cannot be there. So I sent all the specs, and then I specified like exactly how it is. But there's a point where you can't figure it out. And then if that was me before, I would have said, okay, so why don't we talk such and such time, and you have the FaceTime on, and then you show me the light and stuff like that. So then I would just try to control. But at this time, because so it's like, I saw the guy who is helping me, he's great. He has his own experience, and then he's there. So from the beginning, there's a point where I cannot be there. I leave it up to you guys. Yeah. And then he's like, what do you, just do whatever you think is, right. Then I just gave him this description of how I want it, or how I want people to see it. So he did all this kind of improvising like things, and he put the screen like this, and it came out nice. I think in some way like he's probably doing a better job than I do. It's like great. I was like, thank you. I mean, I think that's something that, and also what I also like about projection mapping is that unlike like I used to do a lot of animation work before, like completely digital and then publishing online, is that there's a point where you can't control. It involves a lot of people and then so it becomes basically the collaboration. So that's what I really like about projection mapping. Also, I like the fact that you're not getting 100%, but you do what you can do best.
Yeah.
And then I like that like open end in a way, and then like that every time I do projection mapping, it feels like that it could have been this, it could have been that, or if you had this, but it kind of leaves this sort of way to look for more in the next one. Whereas to me, like when I do animation work, like fully digital or like illustration work, that is so intense in not necessarily like positive way, because it's all up to me or up to whoever creates, and it just you can recontrol, but in the reality you can't recontrol. But then projection mapping just basically leaves the part that you cannot control like as clear. Just when this projector doesn't work, what is it supposed to do? When the city government said you can't turn on this light, what can you do?
Yeah.
Or when I don't know, like when it just when the computer is this and that. So I like that kind of fact that you have to kind of improvise, and then I think I have a tendency to try to control everything in some ways. Like it teaches me something every time I do projection mapping. So honestly, the projection mapping, even the smaller one too, but the bigger one is pain for me. It never comes out the way that I plan, and then I always kept telling myself, just this is what we have, and then after I see and I enjoy. So most of the time when I'm actually on site doing the project, like for the projection mapping, like at night, whatever, many times I'm not really enjoying it because it's like, oh my God, or why didn't we get this? Why didn't he? It's just this is what we can do best, and then
it's like the classic human condition of wanting to control everything, but like a metaphor for life, you can't control everything. You just gotta.
There's a beauty to it, you know what I mean? I think it's we have to accept our limit, and knowing that we do our best. I think that's important for an artist. One of the things I learned and I really appreciate about Western culture is that the term ichiban in Japanese.
Number one.
Ichiban is that Japanese people use it in our culture. We use the ichiban all the time. But the thing is, the concept of ichiban, the best, but the only best. So meaning that when you say ichiban, meaning there's only one. There's no another one. Just basically the best is the best. And then when I moved to the States, when I was learning English, there's some concept that I had time to understand. But when I started living here, people often use one of the best. And it just didn't make any sense to me. I was like, how can the best can be one of the best? I mean, one is like the one, the only. That concept, it took me a while to really like understand it. And as in the beginning, I was just like, just a compromise, right? So they want to call, they just can't decide the best of the best. So they just call 200 people best. But the thing is, the concept of the one of the best is just that, to me, that's like big part of the Western culture that I really learned is, and also the perfecting it is sometimes just you lose something. There's some point where that you have to find some kind of balance in a way. If you push too much, and then you actually, without knowing, you lose something. So I think that's sort of keeping it a little bit easy in a way, and that also helps me when I create artwork, because when I was in the beginning of my career, I was trying to, when I got stuck with something, and I was just trying to find the only solution, and that gets very stressful. Like when you painting or making animation or whatever, if you just believe that there's only one solution to it, and trying to find it's just so stressful, and then to the point where sometimes you end up sacrificing something. But if you actually open up and say there are tons of solutions, you just have to put among the best ones. You just pick one, and that makes it a lot easier in terms of the production process. So I think it's just that I really appreciate that from in this culture that I live now.
That's what an incredible observation you've made, and thank you for sharing that. It's a very thought-provoking process that you've shared. I think it's got me thinking about a lot of things when you shared a few of your concepts. It's because when I listen to people like yourself sharing your experience in a particular field like art, I find that there's so many parallels or so many things that I can cross-pollinate with in my world, in what I do, and it makes a lot of sense as well. What do you see the future of projection mapping? Do you think it's on the rise? Do you think it's stagnant? Or where do you see it going?
I think it's definitely on the rise. One of the things I can say is that this goes to any kind of art which has very heavy technical aspect to it. You always go through this phase where the technology is introduced, and then from there it reaches a consumer level, and then that's where a lot of people jump in, and then the creative people jump in and start creating the contents. So the projection mapping was very technical thing before. So the people who knew how to program or how to set the equipment, but then from there we already reached the point where that it's very easy for anyone to access. The program that we use it's very simple to use. So that opened up the whole audience, the users in a way. So I think in that way, the more known. I come from animation background, and then I always tell animators. I also teach. So I teach projection mapping, and also I teach traditional animation. So I always tell my students just think about this, because animation just used to be shown in a flat screen, and then from there, now we can project onto a 3D object. But now you can actually you can create the whole space, 3D space, like real space, into your screen. So you can invite people in your space. So this is also requires animation. So I think in that way that we still have just opened up a lot of possibilities. I think there are more and more animators, not animators, even photographers, the filmmakers. And then I can go on like display design, and there are a lot more that to be explored. So I think it's going to, I think, give more opportunities for a lot of creators, definitely.
I'm really excited to see the direction it goes, and like you said, because it's reached more of a consumer level, a lot more creators like myself can jump in, give things a go, try it out, explore different opportunities, and see what we can make out of it. I'll possibly show you some of my work in the future. if I think it's any bit worthy.
So you manage a restaurant?
I have a business partner. We own a restaurant, and it's a very challenging industry. Restaurant business, hospitality is a very challenging industry
because of the timing now.
I think in general, the hospitality industry is very challenging. It's quite low margins. It's very labor intensive. It's time consuming. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But what I do enjoy about hospitality is being hospitable. It is the connection, having people come to your space and enjoying like your coffee and food and your creation and everything like that. So it's a cafe by day, restaurant by night. It's like an order.
Oh, nice.
And we've tried to curate an experience where I'll send you a link, but like this current space that we have, we try to turn it into, when you walk into it, you're transported into a different space. It's very female centric, so it's a lot of pink blushes, it's a lot of pink marble. The floral pieces are very curated, and the ambience is nice, we think anyway. And that combined with the food, but with the food, because everything is so almost luxurious, we've tried to change the food to match. So we use very almost expensive, high quality produce, from caviar to anything along those lines, and we try to curate that experience together with the ambience.
So basically, the customers can just enjoy just by walking like around.
Yeah, that's it. And
So what kind of cuisine is it?
it's in Australia. We call it modern Australian, which means anything. Because a lot of our chefs are Korean, and my background is Vietnamese, and like I was born in Australia, and we've got Italian chefs and as well. Like it's a mix. Like we do all sorts of mixed stuff.
Also, there's a lot of influence from Polynesia, like Saipan or like Indonesia, also like the southeast, but like more south. That's interesting. Yeah, I've been there actually twice, Australia.
You've been to Australia?
Yeah, I've been to Parramatta. So I went through the Sydney and I went to Parramatta twice.
Parramatta twice, yes. How many years ago was this?
I think that was 2008 and 2009, or maybe 2007, 2008. But I went there twice.
Yes.
The same event. Yeah.
Parramatta has changed a lot since then. A lot. It's become, back then in 2008, 2009, they said Parramatta will be the next CBD. And it has developed a lot compared to the last time you were here.
Yeah. When the event I went, it's called River Beats. They did this event, one night event, but the day long event. And then at the end, they have the opera singer coming with both, and you can go. And then at the end, with the DJ, me, and then a DJ, we do the projection, and then there's the dancers, and then it was. But it was crazy because we did the projection across the river. So the audience is on the other side of the river, and they put all the projectors, and then we on the other side, like the shopping district or something like that. But it was something, yeah.
You got a projection piece over Parramatta River. Interesting.
Yeah. It's called River Beats.
River Beats.
And then that was like 2000. Yeah. So it's funny thing is that so we did a projection on the big inflatable. And then so that was a VJ. So I mixed the video live with the music.
Yeah.
But the thing that time was talking about the projection mapping. I didn't know the term projection mapping, and this is how new projection mapping is. Crazy. And that was 2008, I think. Yeah. And then so we had to project onto so they sent me the specs and said we have the screens behind you guys, the big one. They're huge inflatables. And how can we project it? And then the funny thing is this is how I think people changed. Like that time the DJ culture was very strong. And that time any projection outside was more like the DJing. So that we all wanted to project onto flat screen. So we used to call no flat surface projection. And then when we are given the no flat one, that used to be disappointment. So it's it's not flat. And they go, no, we have a flat screen behind, but we have huge inflatable. And then it's like, what should we do? And I was like, I don't know how to do it because whatever project is square. And then I think I didn't have a direct contact to the projectionists, the guys who bring projection stuff. So through the curator, organizer, it's like, no, they have some ideas. It's like, fine, but I don't know how to do it. And they're asking me if I can create the filter, the mask. But the thing is, we don't know the size. I don't know the distance. So it's like, what should we do? Oh no, the guy sat inside said that he has some solution. So I showed up there. They set the projector. I was like, so how are we going to do it? It's like, we have a solution. And he took out the cardboard.
Yeah.
And then circle on it. This is how we're going to do it.
Okay.
The cardboard on that. And I was like, that's clever. And then I remember we were saying, yeah, I wish we could do that on the computer. Yeah, this works, and then worked. And then I think a few years later, I started doing projection mapping, and I was like, wait, so if we had this software, we didn't have to do this. I was like, oh, that was like, it's like so like just 10 years ago. It's crazy. Yeah.
Progression, a lot of progression.
Yeah. Now everyone wants to project onto the spheres, and everyone wants to project onto buildings, and that time just no one wanted to project onto the building because it's it's not white.
Non-flat surfaces are in now.
that was a turn off that time. I was no.
Flat surfaces are boring. It's the opposite now.
The opposite now.
We're reaching the tail end of the interview, so I just want to shoot you a couple of quick questions. Maybe not so quick, and it's okay. You don't have to make it quick. It's just questions I normally ask at the end of the interviews. Are there any new beliefs or behaviors that have had a positive impact in your life in the recent years?
I think one thing I learned in hard way is taking care of health. That's I had this I was up to 5 years ago. So when I lived in Ecuador, and I had this work schedule, and then I had this schedule where I every day wake up around like 3 o'clock, and then work, and then go to sleep around 7 o'clock sometimes. But the thing is that I was cutting the sleep hours. Like I'm actually quite okay with. I sleep pretty heavy, so I'm okay with sleeping less hours. But I was like doing that like for like good 4 or 5 years straight, and I got a lot of stuff done. But the thing is that I just wasn't really thinking about the consequence. And then after that, just started having like small things to big things just come. So I think it's it's like a marathon. You cannot just create and just pass out and create and pass out. So I think it's just now I'm much more careful, but I think it's just if you just don't really take care of yourself for a certain period of time, and there's always the time that you have to pay back. And then just you look at it in the long run, it's just, I could always justify, say, hey, but I got a lot of stuff done. But at the same time, that it's important to stay healthy and also clear your mind. And I think it's also, if you do creative work, like I think having a very clear mind, also having enough sleep, and that's really important. Of course, we have to sometimes stay up late and get it done. But I think that shouldn't be the kind of routine. So that's something that I think I learned in a hard way, in a way, because if you do that, you have a lot of problems. I recently had a cataract surgery. Yeah. And I think it has a lot to do with, I had the eye surgery before too, but so until that, I just got this surgery a few months ago, but toward the end, it was so bad that I just had a really hard time to see at night. And then I think it's just, if I was taking care of myself, like I could have maybe avoid it, or maybe I could have paid more attention, so maybe I could have done something to avoid stuff like that. So I think it's just important to just be smart about it. You know what I mean? Just, I think you have to be.
Yeah, definitely. No, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you sharing that. First question, are you into more movies or books at the moment? Movies. Okay. Do you have a favorite movie you could recommend?
Yeah. I like comedies, and also I like the lot about like, how do you say that, kind of intense stuff. But like aside from the comedy, I like, my favorite comedy is Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber.
The first one. I don't know how many times I watched it. It's just I don't know how convincing I sound just to justify this, but I think comedy is very creative because it's all about giving something unexpected, but gives clue to it before. So it's something's coming, but then gives something which is slightly different than you expect, but it's not complete like surprise. That's why it's funny. So let's say you pause, and then you say it. So it's like that timing, and I just find the comedy to be very, and of course entertaining. And the Dumb and Dumber is just like the little details, and just like you think the joke is over, and they just adds to it. And also, it's just and every time I watch it, it's like, oh, this is just so great. So that I like. So it's also because of this. I like to talk about this subject of the fear, and that I like to watch a lot of, I would say, shocking stuff in a way. But one of my all-time favorite is Natural Born Killer by Oliver Stone.
Yes.
That movie makes a lot of statement, and it's just also some of the things that I almost like personally understand in a way that it talks about the background of the main character, and then how the media is, but not so much of the media part. I just talk about this violence in a way, and then that movie, I just find it like, to me, it's very inspiring. I also watched the whole series of Narcos.
Yes. No,
Yeah, and I watched all that. Yeah, I can go on and on, but I watched another TV shows actually about that, about the drug cartel on the documentaries and stuff like that. It's not. I'm interested in like how people behave or how people feel in extreme condition, and I just try to see something in there in a way. What goes on in their mind, or how do they like when they in certain situation, and like how do people decide like what kind of priority they make, and then that sort of thing, like very slim down like way that when people face something, what kind of decision people make, and then that kind of thing just makes me think in a way. So so I like this is also the TV show, something based on the story, true story in a way, so that I can understand better. So yeah, so like to me, like research in a way.
Yeah, I see. Some really great recommendations there. Now I'll have to revisit Dumb and Dumber. I have so many years of it when I was young.
I just love the movie.
And my mother loved it so much. She just died laughing every time. We're at the time of recording this, it's December 2020. So it's coming to the end of the year. Do you have any projects coming up in 2021 that you're excited about that you want to share?
Yeah, I have some the gallery installation work that coming up in March in Manhattan. So I haven't seen the location yet, but I'm thinking to go next week. But I'm pretty excited about that. So to me that I'm trying to, when I work on projection mapping project, that I feel like extra challenge in a way, and also it's not like in a way that something that I can resolve. Like they say, one of the main thing about the projection mapping or any projection work is the issue is that the area needs to be dark. That's always the thing. And then so like back in the days when you go to gallery and when they show video artists work, they used to do stuff like they just have this corner room and they put the curtain and you go in and see it. Yeah. That's how people still do that, but that's how it used to be. And one of the reasons why it was like that because projector wasn't strong enough. And also people have this idea, the movie theater projection, right? So that's like my understanding. But now that projectors became much stronger. So back then, like the 2000 lumen used to be like the strong projector. But now you can get 5000 lumen, 6000 lumen, and a fraction of what it used to cost. And if you use a strong projector, you can pretty much project in the daylight if you choose the shadow. So to me, the challenge is that how can I combine the projection work with the environment? And then when I'm giving the opportunity to do projection work, which the area is also used by some of the purposes, like let's say people receive people, the gallery has to receive people come and go. So there'll be natural light. So that kind of stuff that I think is challenging in a way, but it's exciting. So you experiment with a lot of things like the material, the projection surface, so that kind of stuff. I'm hoping to do something like that more coming year.
It sounds like a very similar challenge that I'm working on doing projects in a restaurant because it's a dining area and then there's a daytime, there's a nighttime, and I'm thinking about how to. Yeah, because I'm thinking of possibly.
Yeah, it's easy because almost like controlling lighting is almost addictive. I can just like go on and on. I know I should settle somewhere, but it's like, what if I do this? What if I do? It's like, oh, I should stop. But it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just I guess I'm still excited about controlling light. But I think, I don't know, when you control light, it kind of makes you feel like have power. I don't know. Just feel good when you control light. So like I can control the environment. So, yeah.
No, I understand exactly what you mean. If you could only send one single line of SMS text to yourself 5 years ago, what would it be?
I would say 5 years ago is a little bit too new for me. So can I do like 10 years ago?
Let's go.
I think if I'm to 10 years ago, it's around the time that my daughter was born. So my daughter was in 2009, and then my son was born in 2011. But if I'm to send a text to myself, I'll probably just tell myself to take it easy in a way. Also see things more positive way, because I was just overwhelmed at that time. That's also around the time that I got very busy. So I started traveling a lot, and then having babies is just so exciting. You just get so happy and just get so concerned. And then I think it's just I really just got overwhelmed in a way. So because of that, I think I was excited and happy at the same time. I was also very angry because a lot of things didn't go the way I wanted. But I think it's just, if I could tell myself I just wish that I had the time to have a chance to sit and think through it. And then I think it would have been a lot easier for everyone. So I think for that, yeah.
Understand. And finally, how could people reach out or learn more about you?
So you can check my Instagram, my webpage, but also Vimeo. I update more in Vimeo, I think. It's just because, I don't know, if I visit someone's site, I just want to see work. So you can just see my video. So that would be vimeo.com/Motomichi, right? Yeah. And then, Instagram. I think these two, I spend more on that time.
I'll be sure to include all the links in the show notes, everyone.
Yeah, great.
Motomichi, it's been such an honor and a pleasure and an eye-opening experience to be able to ask you questions and listen to everything that you had to share. It's inspiring, and I feel like we could keep going on and on, but I want to also be respectful of your time, and maybe we could do a part 2 in the future if the opportunity arises.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You had really good questions, so that really made me think. But especially the question about giving text to myself in the past, I was like, oh no, yes. I wish someone asked me that question 5 years ago. But I really appreciate that people asking me questions, because first of all, I think that's a reward for artists, because to me, like when I create artwork to be seen by others, to me, just if I create artwork and if I don't show it, just doesn't mean anything. Just whole point is just showing to people, and then getting feedback is just a reward. What they think, they like, they don't like, doesn't matter. And then people asking questions and then asking more is just, to me, that also you helps me to think more. I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. I'm still looking through all your past work, and I can't wait to see what you've got upcoming as well. I'll be following you closely, Mr. Motomichi. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.
Okay, great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. All the links to the show notes will be available at kevinleesocial.com, spelled Kevinly. Conversely, if you have any interviews that you'd love to recommend, please send it over to kevinleesocial@gmail.com. I'd love to connect. Thank you. Until the next episode.